Hello everyone, welcome back to Mog's Workshop, and what we're going to be doing today is building a book nook. And when I say today, what I mean is many days. This is a video in 3 parts because this was a long project, a lockdown project, the kind of thing that you can indulge yourself upon when you can't even leave the house. Excellent stuff, so here we go, we're blasting away with some cardboard and we're trying to make a maquette. A maquette is a tiny little model, or in this case a 1-to-1 scale model, of what we're going to be making out of plastic. But we're starting off with cardboard, and here we go, measuring it all out, trying to make it all make sense according to some kind of grand scheme that I've got stored up in my brainium. Well, what we want here is a city of cyber, and we need some buildings in the background and in the midground, and hopefully some buildings in the foreground. Now here we go, doesn't this look jolly? All kinds of buildings, ins and outs, outs and ins, but there are a few problems with it. Number one, it is just too dense. Look at it, there's not enough space to see anything. We need to start again. So here we go, fresh bits of cardboard. Luckily there's lots of this stuff going around, and let's make it a little bit neater this time so we don't have quite so much fuss and nonsense when trying to fit things inside. Lots of messy glue though, that's always fun. So let's get the roof in place, and we've got a nice neat little box complete with a frame around the outside. Lovely stuff. What should we put inside? Well, let's make the buildings again a little bit neater than last time, and a lot fewer of them. We're going to secure them to these little bases so we can move them around inside and make sure we've got a nice arrangement before we finally nail them in the spot. Not with real nails, of course, that would be absurd. It's only cardboard, just a little bit of glue will come in handy. Here we go. Put this together. Nice little pyramid. Where's this going to go? Somewhere? Somewhere interesting? I do hope so, because it certainly did take a long time to figure this out. Very nice, very neat, excellent stuff. Building 1, building 2, taking shape rather nicely, I think. Now, I put the measurements on all of these buildings so I can refer to them later when I turn them into nice plastic bits. Here we go, there's all the buildings dancing for our pleasure, and let's see now if we can get them inside. Putting them on even heavier bases so they don't topple over all the time, and we arrange them like some kind of manic Tetris player, and it all looks rather jolly. Excellent stuff. What's next? Well, what we need to do now is take an appreciation of the midground. And this time, rather than having a midground and a foreground, we're going to kind of combine the two here, so we don't have quite so much fuss happening. We cut little slots, we make little doors, and we do all sorts of things to make these buildings look interesting without being overly fussy. Slotting them in place here, and we can see, oh, that's a breath of fresh air. Look, much more space to breathe and put interesting objects for the eye to take fascination in. It looks rather spooky inside, but don't let that worry you. We will be putting in lights after all. First of all, though, plastic. We can't have this box that's going to hold all of our lovely buildings in cardboard, because it'll all sag and look rather sad after only a couple of weeks, and we want this to last, well, at least a little bit longer than that. So we're using styrene sheets, and these are great fun. They cut really easily, snap and bend and twist with heat, nice and easily, and what you can do is glue them together with this rather super duper solvent. You put it on with a paintbrush and it melts the plastic together. Excellent stuff, and really makes a secure bond. Just got to make sure that the edges are nice and smooth and that they meet flush, and then they'll be very well behaved and stay stuck for a very long time indeed. And I'm taking into consideration all kinds of factors here, such as, well, where are the wires going to go when I wire this up? So I'm creating a little false floor here, so there's plenty of space to hide things underneath, and plenty of space to drill things into the back, should I wish to do so. The frame goes on the outside, and again, this will cover up a multitude of my crimes by making it look a little bit neater than otherwise it would have done. And, of course, it makes it look nicer when it's sitting inside the bookshelf. Well, one hopes anyway. Kind of gives it a more picturesque look, if you don't mind the expression. Keeping on going, gradually, firming it up, making sure that everything is bracketed and supported, and then we go around the outside and we do a little bit of filling, a little bit of filing, well, an awful lot of filling, an awful lot of filing, just to make sure it's as smooth as we can possibly get without losing our minds entirely. Doesn't take too long, and this stuff does sand very nicely, and then we can prime it and paint it a rather jolly matte black to go with our theme of a nighttime city. It wouldn't be very good if we had a bright green box, now would it? Here we are, snapping the lid in place. This will give us good access when we're constructing, and I think that's come together rather well. Jolly good stuff. What's next? Well, here's an idea. Let's take apart our lovingly produced cardboard maquette and start to make it in plastic. We'll pick out a building at random, let's take this one, and then start to really think about how we're going to do this in plastic. First things first, let's measure it all out, and then we'll score some lines, get some texture into this thing. Even though it's going to be a building in the background, we'd like it to be able to catch the light in interesting ways and reflect and refract. Here we go, let's drill some holes and snip, snap, snap. We'll take this apart very easily. Oh, styrene is a joy to work with. You just score a line and then bend it backwards and forwards, and it comes away with a perfect cut. Much better than I could do myself, even if I had an incredible bandsaw, which I don't. So this is much easier. Here we go, let's snap these apart, and then we're going to be putting our building together like some kind of bizarre flat pack furniture. Here it is, little area cut out there for a sign, little holes for lights, and now let's work with some greeblies. Ooh, what are greeblies, I hear you ask? Well, they're just little bits of other model kits that I happen to have lying around. In this case, I think a kit from a tank was used here, and I put together all kinds of bits and bobs from it to make little fascinations on the top there, make it look a little bit more architecturally interesting. Creating a base for it as well, so when it slots in place it'll be nice and secure, and I can run the wiring up through this. Bravo, there we go, what luck. Paint it black and we are ready to do some wiring itself. Drill some holes in the base, thread the wires through, a bit like knitting that, and then glue the lights in place onto the stands and peel away the masking tape. It's always the most fun part of any project if you ask me. And we're left a nice little neat white place where we can put a sign. But we need to address a few other things first. We're actually going to put some other different type of lights here, some fiber optics. So we run the fiber optic, there's a glass sort of tube, and we run it down through the tower and connect it to a little sad LED. It's not going to be sad for long because it's going to light up magically little red lights on the roof of the building. I tell you what else is magic, the little printer I'm using to make these signs. I'll show you that later. It's really rather good and prints out on self-adhesive photographic paper so that the signs will look rather fun when they come through, rather than just if I'd have put them out on normal paper. Double check to make sure the wiring isn't tangled, and let's turn this sucker on. Bongo, a festival of lighting. Very difficult to photograph, especially when out of focus, but it's only in the background. It's a good start. Let's get on to building number 2. Time to challenge ourselves a little bit, shall we? Let's go for the pyramid one. This is a bit more awkward to get the measurements right, but once they are, it comes together as a nice little neat pyramid, and we'll put masking tape, tiny thin masking tape, all the way around to create the windows. Once again, a tremendous amount of joy is to be had from peeling this off and revealing our stripy tower. A little touch of the Tim Burton about this for some reason in my head, so I think it justifies a completely different way of lighting it up. We're just going to go with standard LEDs, no fiber optics, and no RGB strips. Instead, this time we're going to make this building glow. So let's put some LEDs in place, attach them here with some masking tape, and we're ready to go. One last detail, we'll add a transfer from an old kit here, and that'll give it a nice little bit of identity. Switch on time. Almost there with the background. I think these buildings are going to be firm friends. Let's get to the third one. Yeah, and ramping up the difficulty once more, this building has all kinds of extra sides and facets and sides, but it should look interesting. Let's add some little details here, some pipes on the front, drill some more windows, and add some greeblies and stitch it all together. Not with real stitches, of course, but with fab glue that gives us this solid little structure who is ready to have his masking tape removed. And there's quite so much masking tape because he's turning out to be a bit of a hybrid of building 2's glowy parts and building 1's drilled windows. He's a happy little hybrid and a solid little chap, and I will not have anything said against him. Here he is, doesn't he look great? And he's got holes at the back to be secured to the back of the book nook so he won't fall over. Let's measure out here what's going on, and we want to secure, again, LEDs. No fancy lighting on this one, except for, I think we'll revisit some fiber optics for the roof. Securing these in place with masking tape, nothing permanent in case I need to fix things, and here's the magical printer. It's oh so tiny, connects to your mobile phone with Bluetooth, has a fun little app on it, and you're able to print self-adhesive little stickers. Perfect for a job like this. Insert the lighting. Oh, what's it look like with the other 2 buildings? Open your eyes, it's not too bad. Look at that, it's come together rather splendidly. Red light on the roof and ready for building 4. So what's this one going to be? Well, we're going to make 3 towers of varying heights and have little triangles on the top of them. We'll do something interesting to those in a minute. First things first, let's score some lines into this thing to make sure that it catches the light in all kinds of lovely ways, and then we're going to drill many holes. Many tiny holes, the tiniest of tiny holes. This really does take a long time, but there's no shortcut, so we just have to soldier on and be terribly brave. Once it's all in place, we can glue the structures together just as we've done before, adding a little bit of edging here for extra stability, and then we'll stick them all together and add these rather interesting looking perspex triangles. More about that in a moment. First of all, we need a base, and let's make sure that it fits. Yes, it fits. It fits nice and securely, and that'll hold our tower in place. So those perspex triangles are actually going to sit underneath little styrene roof parts. Therefore, the light will only shine out of their edges. It should produce a nice, interesting effect. Let's have a look. All together at last, looking suitably cyberpunk, here is our city's skyline. And that brings to a conclusion part 1. I'll see you in part 2, where we build the foreground and midground and add all kinds of interesting screens and lights. I'll see you there.